We should be helping make this decision. This is our town.
Governor Pritzker has agreed to let Gotion Inc., a Chinese electric battery company with Communist Party ties, set up shop in small-town Manteno, Illinois. Gotion is building a $2 billion factory, but will get a whopping $8 billion in subsidies from American taxpayers. Manteno residents aren't happy.
Why are we getting them such tax cuts? If anything, they're from another country. They should be paying full tax. If this is so great.
I guess the biggest part is, why was it kept so secret?
It's nothing short of a kick in the face to ask all of us, the county taxpayers, to help fund a communist, Chinese-owned battery plant.
Most of the jobs that are going to come in here, obviously, are from out of town. So that's not really creating new jobs for Manteno people.
Our elected officials are supposed to be working for us and protecting our interests.
Is this worth lining your pockets with money?
This is exactly why you didn't publicize it.
If you care about the town and the community and people, this shouldn't be happening.
Welcome back to Inside the Square, brought to you by freedomsquare.com, where we're building out America's Chamber of Freedom. If you own a business, get in there and start connecting with consumers and business owners. It's time to do business together and help save the Republic. Some parts of the Republic are in worse shape than others. One of those places that's in worse shape than others is Illinois. I'm talking to Ted Dabrowski from Wirepoints, and a big hoopla is happening down in Manteno, Illinois, which is about, 40 miles southwest of Chicago, here at takeoff of I-57 as you're headed downstate. We have a Chinese company by the name of Gotion Incorporated that's hoping and looking to, and I believe they've got it done through the power of the pen with J.B. Pritzker, to put a battery company for EVs. Walk me through that process and how that doesn't get corrupt and how that doesn't end up with a big scandal, with that much money being filtered in.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So Gotion Inc. is a Chinese company with you can read it all in the bylaws and everything. They have very strong ties to the Chinese Communist Party. So that right there sparked a lot of interest from people. What's going on? And what's happening is a Gotion, well, I should back up a step. Governor Pritzker has been on a huge push internationally to try to make Illinois the most green state in the country and to make it kind of an EV hub for manufacturing. And so he's been pushing really hard. And in the last 2 years or so, he's been 0 for 18 in trying to attract investments. And there's a lot of critique about Governor Pritzker not getting enough jobs.
Where do you get those numbers from, Ted? Come on, that's Governor Pritzker we're talking about.
Well,
can't be 0 for 18.
Well, you can see, Rivian, who has a plant here, already existing plant, they didn't build their expansion in Illinois. They went to Georgia.
Right, because they took over the Mitsubishi plant down in Normal, Illinois.
Correct. A few years back. So Rivian didn't expand massively here. They went to Georgia. Stellantis, rather than expanding here, built right over in Indiana. And Michigan has been winning. Tennessee's been winning plants. Huge investments. A lot of times with South Korean battery makers or Japanese battery makers. Well, here we were losing. And suddenly out of nowhere, with nobody knowing it, we finally win a battery plant. And it's with a company called Gotion. Well, who's Gotion, right? And that raised the whole question. And it was this Chinese battery maker. Well, then the questions it got more interesting. Well, how much did we have to pay them to come? Like if this is such a good business, do we really have to pay somebody to come to Illinois?
With TIF money, correct?
Well, so it turns out that Governor Pritzker used some of the slush fund that the legislature allowed him to use. Basically, we're giving Gotion $536 million of state money. But the bigger part of the money comes from the Inflation Reduction Act, which doesn't sound like anything to do with batteries, but they stand to get $7.5 billion. So we're talking about $8 billion of taxpayer subsidies, American taxpayer subsidies, to a Chinese company to build a $2 billion plant. And so suddenly we're saying, well, wait, $8 billion, $2 billion, do we really need to give out that kind of money? And then it's a Chinese company with ties to the communist. Lots of questions, but if you try to ask a question, guess what? Pritzker has called anybody who asks a question Republicans, Manteno residents. He says they're xenophobic, MAGA Republicans. He's on defense just by calling people names. The mayor won't provide any information, so nobody knows.
How about that we just call them taxpayers that want to know where their money's going into their community? That is such an upside down deal.
Well, it sounds very upside down. Nobody knows anything about it, and so the Manteno residents aren't happy. We were there for a rally yesterday, and it gets bigger than that too, because these battery plants use massive amounts of water.
Sure.
And then that water gets poisoned some way. So where does that stuff go? And these are people in Manteno. They live there because they like being. It's 9,000 people. They like being in the open.
Yeah.
And here comes this big battery factory. Nobody knows about it. There's a risk of fires. I'm not an expert on the battery technology, but risk of fires. And so people deserve answers. And there should be transparency. And Governor Pritzker is giving none of it. The Senate head for Republicans wrote a private message to Governor Pritzker. And instead of getting any kind of answers back about what the investment is more like, you guys are MAGA Republican, just all negative things, name calling, and that's just not good.
Correct.
Right? Not good, not fair. And, there's a lot of concern about the environment. There's a lot of concern by Democrats, especially at the national level, about China and their, how they play the game. So you've got a lot of the Biden administrative staff talking about the risks of China and what it means to America. So for Pritzker to turn this into a MAGA Republican is just not right, unfair.
Well, he plays that card as much as he possibly can, whenever he can.
Well, yeah, he's a big name caller, but the Democrats are on record for being very concerned about these kind of investments, and so what's wrong with Manteno residents just asking fair questions and getting normal answers? That's right. So it's really a bipartisan thing, especially when you talk about environment and everybody. There's a whole debate about what's happening globally with the climate and all that, but when you get down to it and you're in a local community and you've got your farmland and you've got your community, you care about things like water, right? And you care about risks of cancer from plants and all those are legitimate concerns. So it's fascinating. Now, Gotion is also trying to build a plant in Michigan. Big pushback there. A little bit more into the farmland in Big Rapids. And there's a big concentrated effort. They've got a lawsuit there now, environmental lawsuit against that plant. So Gotion is finding its hands full in Michigan and in Illinois.
Well, that's good. I mean, we need to push back against the CCP buying farmland, because that's prime farmland. If you Google Manteno, Illinois, Manteno, and you'll find that is prime farmland right in the middle, the northern part of the state, just south of I-80. That's prime farmland. They're going to gobble up. How many acres are they looking to buy?
I forget the number, but my big concern is there's a lot of stuff on conspiracy theory on China and all that, and that's all good. I don't even want to go there. I think for me it's look, we should do our due diligence. We saw during COVID all the supply chain issues, right? Big supply chain issues. So here you go. Now you've got battery. You're talking about future technology for military, for transportation. If we give money like $8 billion to a Chinese company, aren't we messing up our whole supply chain efforts? Aren't we giving them an advantage? Aren't we helping fund the technology, which batteries will be a big part of military as well?
Correct.
So let's be smart about it, right? You don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to like have concerns, and take on top of that all the other issues I mentioned, environment and your community, and look, think about this, by the way. Oh, we're getting 2,600 jobs is what they say. When you take the subsidies divided by the 2,600 jobs, we are paying China, or the Chinese company, $3 million per job. What the heck?
What a win.
Yeah, what a win, right?
What a win.
Good for taxpayers, right?
But I think that's just JB's mentality. He wants to get a win on the scoreboard. He's gone, you said 0 for 18.
Yeah.
And here's one, but it is so lopsided and upside down. And I applaud the city and the people of Manteno that have pushed back, and for you guys having a rally down there. But you've got to, things like this don't make its way into the mainstream media to talk about. You're not going to see this broadcast on NBC5 or Channel 2 here in Chicago.
Well, that's the big deal. Is that give Pritzker credit, and I don't mean that necessarily positively, but he's done a great job of making sure that the media stays on his side, and he spent over $350 million on his campaigns for governorship over the last 2 campaigns. So he spent a lot of money with the media, and believe me, I'm sure they feel like they need to be
lapdogs
in line.
Absolutely. So what's the next step with this Gotion plant? Where is it at now? Does it have to go through, I guess, development as far as city council? They have to look at development and infrastructure. Well, you build a plant that size, you're going to have new roads, infrastructure, that many people moving into a community that it's almost going to put a 30% increase in population to a community like that.
Well, this is what's difficult about these kind of deals, and this is what happens when you give a governor, in this case, too much power. Once they created that fund for him, he was able to actually negotiate all that without debate on the House floor. So the Republicans have written a letter to Pritzker, and they say, just tell us something, because they were not part of the negotiations. Likewise, the people in Manteno were saying, well, we never even heard about this.
Right.
It was only presented as done. There wasn't like all these discussions about, hey, great, we're going to win a plant. The mayor wasn't talking about it beforehand. They weren't having huge celebrations. No, what it was, this is done. Let's not talk about it.
Deal with it.
Deal with it, yeah. And so we're not quite sure. And by the way, this is a big deal in Michigan, probably will become a big deal here, is that many of the government officials have non-disclosure agreements. At least that's the claim.
Okay.
In other words, they can't talk about the deal. Excuse me?
You're an elected official talking about something that's going to happen in your community. You can't tell me
Yeah,
about it.
so I hope that's not true. Now, obviously, if it's a technology question about protecting technology of a company, I get that. But for a mayor or government officials to say, I can't talk about it or I won't talk about it, it's a big concern. So we have to see where, I would imagine there's going to be some environmental lawsuits. There was a board meeting last night. We need to see what the results were. There's some zoning discussions that still have to go on. It's all happened so fast.
National security issues that could potentially rear their head.
Right, and that's the big deal. As I mentioned, the Democrats at the national level have been super concerned about the national security issues. And Pritzker's saying, don't worry about it. And, if you look at it, the Constitution of every state says, you have to take care of safety of the public.
Sure.
One of these things would be national security. It's not like we just, hey, Washington, you take care of it. We don't care.
We're getting this money. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you tell us what's happening in our own community. No, so there's a lot that still has to go on. So it takes a little bit of work. But like anything important, right? It takes work, hard work.
If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Exactly.
So we'll be back in a little bit inside the square with Ted Dabrowski of Wirepoints.